Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. They always tell the story wrong. They say La Llorona wanders rivers crying for her lost children, that she's cursed to roam the banks of the water forever, weeping and wailing in grief. But that's not what I saw. Grief doesn't sound like that. Grief doesn't drag itself through mud with nails black from digging. Grief doesn't scream like it's trying to rupture the sky. That night I didn't hear a woman in mourning. I heard something hunting. It started the same way it always does. A story passed around at a family gathering. My cousin Jaime swore he saw her once, just a glimpse, standing in the shallows behind their old cabin, hair like a curtain, feet not touching the riverbed. He said she looked straight at him, without ever lifting her head. We laughed, drank too much, lit fireworks near the water like idiots. The kind of cocky, invincible joy that only comes when you're just drunk enough to pretend the dark doesn't scare you anymore. I remember thinking the river looked beautiful that night, silver, calm, endless, the kind of quiet that makes you forget just how deep the water really is. I didn't know the rules. I didn't know about the 13th night. I didn't know you're not supposed to look if you hear the crying. Because if you do, she looks back. I'd gone out to the edge of the creek around midnight just to get a breath of cold air. It was too loud inside and my head was spinning. The moment I stepped onto the gravel path, I felt it. That wrong kind of quiet. No bugs, no wind. The air felt heavy, like the whole world was waiting for something. And then I heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the earth. It started as a moan, long and low. Then it cracked into a wet sob. It was coming from the river, from the black water just beyond the trees. I don't know why I didn't run. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the tequila. But I stepped closer. The sobbing stopped, and then the voice whispered my name. Not shouted, not screamed, whispered right next to my ear. I turned around, heart slamming against my ribs, but there was no one behind me, only the dark and the silver river. And then I saw her. Not all of her, just the outline. She was standing in the middle of the creek, dress soaked and clinging like skin, hair hanging in wet ropes across her face. I thought she was crying, but then I realized her shoulders weren't shaking. They were rising. She was breathing in, like the calm before a scream. That's when I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I was inside the house, door slammed shut, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. When I opened my photos later, there was one I didn't remember taking. It was of the river, and just behind a tree, barely visible in the mist. Her eyes were looking directly at me. I haven't been the same since. I haven't slept. I haven't gone near water. Every time I hear someone crying in the distance, I turn on every light in the house and cover the mirrors. So listen carefully. These are the only tips I have. I don't care if you don't believe me. I didn't either. But when the crying starts and your name echoes across the water, you'll remember this. Tip 1. Don't acknowledge the crying. The first mistake anyone makes is thinking it's a real woman. That's what she wants you to believe. She waits until the hour's too late for help, when the air is thin and still, when the mind is soft with sleep or drink or grief, and then she begins. The crying doesn't sound human at first. It's too stretched, like someone pulling sorrow through a hole in their throat. It changes the longer you listen, shifts from sobbing to gasping to something deeper, hungrier. At first you'll think someone's hurt. That's what I thought too. It might start outside your window, in the woods, down a hallway, or echoing off water if you live near any. It doesn't matter where. If you hear it, she's already chosen you. And here's what you don't do. Don't move toward it. Don't speak. And don't even whisper, "Did you hear that?" The moment you acknowledge the sound, you break the seal. You let her know you're listening. See, La Llorona doesn't exist in the way most ghosts do. She doesn't just haunt a location. She clings to attention. She lives in awareness, in belief, in recognition. When you listen for her, she starts listening back, and she'll twist the sound until you can't ignore it. That's part of the game. She'll shift her sobs to match the pitch of someone you love, your mother, your daughter, your late grandmother, whoever hurts the most to hear in pain. That's when people fall for it. That's when they say something like, "Mom," and it's over. It doesn't matter if you snap out of it the next second. You called out. You gave her a name. Now she can wear that voice like a mask. You'll hear it again the next night. Closer, this time just outside your bedroom door, or through the pipes in the bathroom, or under the floorboards. You'll try to explain it to someone, if you're lucky enough to have anyone left to talk to. But here's the thing. No one else will hear her, because La Llorona doesn't cry for the world. She cries for you, specifically you. And if you answer, even once, she'll never stop. I met a man once in Juarez who had stuffed cotton in his ears for 3 years straight. Never took it out, not even to sleep. Said if he ever heard her again, he'd throw himself in the river just to make it stop. He told me he answered once, just once. He thought it was his sister outside. The next day she was found floating near the dam. So if you hear the crying, I don't care how human it sounds. Do not speak, do not look, do not react. Let her wail into the dark and pretend you are deaf to grief. Because the moment you acknowledge her, you become part of the story. Tip 2. Never look directly at the water at night. The water remembers things. It holds them in the stillness, in the dark, in the way moonlight skims the surface, but never sinks deep enough to show you what's really down there. That's where she waits. People think they'll see her walking down the road or drifting near the edge of the woods, but that's not where she really lives. She lives in reflections. That's how she reaches through. I didn't know this until it was too late. A week after I first heard her crying, I found myself back at the river. I didn't mean to go. I didn't even remember walking there. It was like something pulled me. I stood at the edge, barefoot in the silt, staring into the water. The current was slow, almost hypnotic. My breath fogged in the cold, and I swore I saw movement beneath the surface, long strands of hair swaying like weeds. And then I saw my own reflection, or at least I thought it was mine. But it wasn't blinking when I was. Its lips were moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. And then the reflection began to cry. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was me, crying in the water, dressed like me, shaped like me, but with eyes that were too wide and too bright, eyes that burned white under the surface. I couldn't move. My body was frozen, but the reflection kept getting closer, rising like it was trying to replace me. Then someone grabbed me from behind. Jaime. He'd followed me from the house, said I'd been walking like I was sleepwalking, said I was about to step into the river. I didn't believe him until I looked down. There was no reflection anymore, just black water and two pale handprints on the rocks where I had been standing. If Jaime hadn't stopped me, I think I would have drowned, and no one would have found my body. Because she doesn't leave bodies behind. She pulls you into the reflection, and you stay there. That's the trick. She doesn't drag you under. She replaces you. Your face becomes hers. Your scream becomes hers. She wears you like a mask, a skin, a memory. That's why so many stories end the same way. Someone sees their loved one's face in the water, and then they disappear. It's not a hallucination. It's a summoning. So listen closely. If you hear crying and find yourself near water, do not look. Don't try to check your reflection. Don't try to confirm what you heard. Walk away immediately, because the moment your eyes meet hers, even through glass, even through ripples, she becomes real enough to reach you. And if you hesitate, even for a second, you might find yourself staring back at something that knows your name, something wearing your smile, something that already knows how you'll die. Tip 3. Avoid mirrors after midnight. The crying always starts at the river, but she doesn't stay there. You can run. You can lock every door, every window, board them up and salt the frames. But if you looked at the water, if your reflection was ever touched, she'll follow. And the first place she shows herself, the mirrors. It doesn't matter how far inland you are. Once she's seen you, once you've seen her, you've invited her into the glass. It starts subtly, a flicker behind your shoulder, a wet footprint in front of the sink, a shadow that doesn't match your movements. You'll tell yourself it's nothing, just your imagination, just the light, until one night around 2 a.m., you'll go to the bathroom and the mirror will be fogged over without steam, and you'll see finger streaks wiping the fog away from the inside. People think mirrors show you what's real, but they don't. They show you what's watching. And after midnight, she watches through the glass. One woman I met in Arizona had every mirror in her house painted over. She'd heard the stories. Lost her sister to the river. She never kept water running after dark. Never kept anything reflective in the house. Still didn't matter. One night, she opened the door to her fridge and saw her sister's reflection in the chrome handle. Hair soaked, mouth open, eyes white as fire. That was all it took. She was gone the next day. Just a trail of wet footprints from the kitchen to the bathroom mirror. No one ever found her. I know how that sounds. I do. I thought it was superstition, too, until I saw my own reflection move without me. It was the night after the river. I hadn't slept, couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the crying again. I went to the bathroom to splash water on my face. Didn't turn on the light. Didn't want to see myself. But I looked anyway, and my reflection, it wasn't blinking. It stared straight at me. Then slowly its mouth opened, wider than mine ever could, wider than bone, like it was unhinging, like it was preparing to swallow me whole. And behind it, just over my shoulder, there was another face. Her face, half rotted, soaked in river water, her jaw swinging, her hands pressed flat against the inside of the glass. I screamed, and the lights flickered back on. My reflection was normal again. But the mirror was cracked from the inside. So here's what you do. After midnight, cover your mirrors, all of them. It doesn't matter how small. Even a handheld compact is enough. Throw a towel over it. Tape cardboard over the glass. Break it if you have to. But never look, because mirrors are still water, and if she can't reach you through the river, she'll climb through your reflection instead. Tip 4. She'll use familiar voices. Don't let her in. She never knocks like a stranger. She'll sound like someone you trust, someone you'd open the door for, someone you'd follow into the dark without thinking twice. That's the part no one warns you about. They say she weeps for her children, that she's lost in sorrow. But sorrow doesn't learn the cadence of your mother's voice. Sorrow doesn't call out your name with the exact softness your brother used to. Sorrow doesn't beg for help while humming a lullaby only your grandmother knew. She does. She learns. She mimics. She reaches inside your memory and pulls out the voice that hurts the most to ignore. It always starts the same way. You hear your phone ring or someone knocking on the front door. Maybe it's your sister's voice calling from outside. Maybe it's your dad asking you to open up, just for a second. You'll think, how did they get here? You'll think, maybe it's just a dream. But here's the rule. If the voice came from the water, it will never lead you anywhere but back to it. There's a story I heard from a man in Veracruz. He lost his wife to cancer, said he would have done anything to hear her voice one more time. One night, months after she died, he heard her calling to him. He opened the door. No one was there, but he followed the voice anyway, through the trees, toward the river. He was halfway into the water before he realized his wife never called him the name that voice was using. They found him the next morning, barely alive, clutching a piece of white fabric so tightly they had to cut it from his hand. He said he'd seen his wife's face, heard her laughing, until she opened her mouth and started screaming like a drowning animal. He said the thing that wore her voice had no bottom to its throat. So if you hear someone you love calling out to you, especially if it's late, especially if you're alone, don't answer. Even if they say they're hurt, even if they say they're right outside, even if it sounds exactly like someone you'd die to protect. Because that's the point. She's not trying to fool your ears. She's trying to weaken your will. If you speak back, if you open the door, if you step outside the safety of your threshold, she will not hesitate. She'll drag you into the river. And when the police find your house empty and the front door wide open, they'll swear it was suicide. Grief, they'll say. Hallucination. A broken heart. But those of us who know, those of us who've heard our dead speak, we know better. So next time you hear someone familiar at the door, stay still, stay silent, and let them knock forever, because if you let her in once, she'll never leave. Tip 5. Salt the threshold. Burn rue at the door. You can't stop her, but you can slow her down. Most people don't last long enough to learn that part. By the time they realize they're being hunted, it's already too late for weapons or prayers. But there are still things, small things, old things, that buy you minutes, maybe even hours. You just have to respect what came before you. Salt has always been the first line of defense, pure, unbroken. It repels things that don't belong to the living. But not just any salt. You have to use the kind that's never touched metal. Sea salt, black salt, grave salt, if you know how to get it. Sprinkle it across your doorways, your windowsills, around your bed if you have to. But here's the warning no one gives. If the salt line breaks, so does the barrier. One gust of wind, one careless footstep. That's all it takes. And once she's inside, no line in the world will cast her out. Rue is different. It doesn't keep her out. It keeps your mind intact for a while. Burn it at the entrance. Let the smoke drift into the corners of your home. Smell is memory, and memory is armor. She wants you to forget. Forget the rules. Forget what's real. Forget that she's not who she pretends to be. The longer she stalks you, the more your house changes. Doors that creak even when they're closed. Mirrors that face you no matter where you stand. Water dripping from the ceiling when there's no pipe above. That's when you need the rue most. Because when she starts whispering again in your mother's voice or your child's, you'll need every piece of yourself to resist. I met a curandero once, a folk healer. He told me La Llorona doesn't fear crosses. She doesn't burn at the sight of a Bible. But she hesitates around homes that smell like rue and salt and burned ash. Why? Because it reminds her of the old days, when people still believed in monsters. And when people believe in monsters, they build cages. That's what you're doing when you prepare. You're building a mental cage, a space where she's not welcome. It won't hold forever, but sometimes surviving the night is all that matters. So light a bundle of rue, lay the salt in clean, unbroken lines, keep a small flame burning by the door, and whatever you do, when the crying starts again and you hear wet footsteps on the porch, don't open the door to check. The salt will only protect you as long as you believe it can. The moment you doubt it, she's already inside. Tip 6. Don't let the water inside. They say La Llorona haunts the river. That's only half true. She follows the water. And water, if you're not careful, follows you home. It's not like a flood. It doesn't crash through windows or burst out of pipes all at once. It seeps, quiet, slow, patient, like her. It might start with a puddle by the front door, a little damp spot in the middle of your hallway carpet. You'll assume you spilled something, or that the roof is leaking, or maybe that your pet knocked over a bowl in the night. But there's no smell, no color, and the water is always cold, colder than it should be. I learned this the hard way. After the river, after the mirror, I tried to keep my distance, didn't go near windows, didn't answer the door, covered every reflective surface in the house. I thought I was safe, until the drain in my kitchen sink started bubbling. Not gurgling, not clogging, bubbling like something underneath was exhaling. Then came the footprints, wet, bare, leading from the bathroom to my bedroom window. I live alone. That's when I realized it's not her footsteps that cross the salt lines. It's the water. The water carries her. She's not bound to the river anymore. Not once you've heard her. She rides the current wherever it flows. And if a single drop touches your floor, your walls, your skin, she's in. That's how she starts reshaping your space. Your floors will groan like boards underwater. The light will dim like you're beneath the surface. And sometimes, if you listen closely, you'll hear something dripping upstairs. Even when you don't have an upstairs. She floods the edges of your world until it feels like drowning in your own home. Until you forget what dry feels like. Until you can't sleep without the sound of water rushing somewhere behind the walls. That's why you have to be relentless. Check your drains. Seal every window. Don't leave a mop bucket filled. Don't let the dishes soak overnight. Turn off the taps, every last one, especially after sundown. If you wake up and find water where there shouldn't be, on your nightstand, your mattress, your mouth, it's already too late. She's not crying outside anymore. She's in the walls, in the pipes, in the breath rising from your shower drain. And if she gets strong enough, you'll feel her cold hand on your ankle the moment you step out of bed. So take this seriously. Dry is safe. Wet is death. If the water gets in, so will she. Tip 7. You'll hear her crying first. You'll smell her next. Most people think she just appears out of nowhere like a jump scare. that she screams or floats or lunges, but that's not how it happens. Not at first. She announces herself long before she shows her face. And it's not just sound anymore, it's smell. You'll hear the crying, yes, you already know that part. But the next thing that comes, the thing that turns your stomach before your brain can even make sense of it, is the stench. It hits different than anything you've ever smelled. It's rot, but not fresh. It's river mud and wet cloth, rusted metal and stagnant water. It's the smell of grief that's been buried, dug up, and left in the sun. And when it reaches you, it doesn't linger around the room like smoke. It clings to your skin. It crawls into your nostrils and sits there, thick and oily, like a second breath you never wanted to take. The smell doesn't follow the crying. It precedes her. That's the trick. If you hear the crying, but smell nothing, you still have time. Time to shut the blinds, time to salt the floor, time to pray or run, or just scream into a pillow. But when the scent arrives before the sound, she's already inside. I smelled it the second night, before the mirrors cracked, before the pipes began groaning. I was lying in bed, and suddenly the air changed. It got dense, damp, sweet in the worst way, like fruit that had drowned. I sat up fast, thought something had died in the walls. I checked the vents, the windows, the drains. Nothing, but the smell didn't fade. It got stronger the longer I waited. And then the crying started, inside the room. I froze. My hands clamped over my mouth to keep from making a sound. And that's when I realized the smell was coming from the closet. I never opened it. I didn't need to. I saw the water trickling out from underneath the door. Black, thick, still. It vanished by morning. So did the smell. But my closet door hasn't stayed shut since. Some people say she brings the scent with her. Others say it's what happens to the air around her, like the world tries to warn you before she takes hold. Either way, the lesson's the same. If your house smells like a swamp and you haven't been near the river, if the rot crawls up your throat while everything around you looks clean, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it, because the nose knows before the eyes ever do. And once you can smell her, it means she's close enough to touch. Tip 8. Do not speak her name aloud. There's a reason they call her the Weeping Woman. Why the old stories use nicknames. Why your abuela whispered the warning instead of shouting it. Her real name isn't a tale, it's a key. Say it once, and she'll hear you. Say it twice, and she'll find you. Say it 3 times, and you're hers. The thing is, no one believes that anymore. We've gotten comfortable saying it out loud. La Llorona, La Llorona. La. Don't finish it. Don't test the edge of a blade with your tongue. I made that mistake early on, after I first saw her in the water, after I thought I imagined the reflection. I was trying to make sense of it, Googling things, reading forum posts, watching shaky cell phone videos and late night ghost hunter nonsense. That's when I said it aloud, at night, alone, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. And I swear to you, something creaked behind the wall the moment her name left my mouth. Not the pipes, not the house settling. Something moved. That night, I didn't just dream of her. I woke up to find my mouth full of river water. And when I sat up, choking and gasping, the first thing I saw was my bathroom mirror, fogged from the inside. With her name written in the glass, her name is a beacon, a flare in the dark. When you speak it, you validate her, you pull her closer. Words are bridges, especially old ones, and she's been walking those syllables for centuries. You don't need to believe in her for the name to work. You just need to say it. So when you're scared, when you're telling someone what you've seen, be careful. Say her. Say the crying woman. Say the one who drowned them. But never say the name. Not fully, not like a prayer. Because she remembers everyone who calls her, and she always answers. If you already did, if you're reading this now and you've said it even once, don't say it again, because the first time was a warning. The second is a promise. The third, that's when she comes to collect. Tip 9. If you see a woman in white, run the other way. She doesn't always appear as a corpse, not right away. Sometimes she looks like a lost traveler, sometimes like a young woman in distress, sometimes like someone you'd hesitate to fear. That's the snare. People expect monsters to look monstrous, but she wears sorrow like a mask. Wet clothes, bare feet, head bowed in grief. She'll stand near the woods or at the side of a road or drifting along the edge of a dried-up creek. She'll make sure you see her. And if you pause, if you feel pity, if you take one step closer, that's when her head snaps up. That's when you see what she really is. Her eyes don't reflect the light, they absorb it. Her mouth is a cavern, too wide, too open, too wrong. And the sound that comes out when she opens it isn't crying anymore. It's screaming all at once, like 1,000 voices gasping from underwater. There's a story out of a desert highway just outside Santa Fe. A driver pulled over around 3 a.m., thought he saw a woman stumbling along the shoulder, long dark hair, white dress soaked at the hem. Looked injured? He got out to help her. What the police found later was his car, still running. His shoes were sitting neatly by the roadside, both filled with river water. There's no river for 20 miles. Some say she lures travelers because she used to walk the earth looking for her children. Others say she imitates that grief because it's the perfect bait. But whatever her reason, it always ends the same. If you see her, if you recognize her shape, don't stare, don't get closer, don't call out, even if she seems scared, even if she looks like she needs help, even if she looks like someone you know. Run. Because by the time you realize she's not human, you'll already be under her spell, frozen, breathing in her rot, feeling the cold of the river rising around your ankles, even if you're standing on dry land. White dress, bare feet, soaking hair. Go the other direction, immediately, even if you're in the middle of a city, even if there's no water for miles, because when she wants to be seen, it means she's ready to take something from you. And once you see her, she never lets you forget her face. Tip 10. You must choose someone to warn. If you've heard the crying, if you've smelled the rot, if the mirrors fog on their own and the water runs cold no matter how long you boil it, then you're marked. You may still be alive, but she's with you now, watching, waiting, winding her way closer with every breath you take. And there's only one way I know to stop her. You have to pass her on. I don't mean that figuratively. I mean it exactly as it sounds. Tell someone, not just in passing, not as a ghost story over drinks. Really tell them. Look them in the eye and explain the rules. The crying, the water, the name, all of it. The curse needs a witness. It needs someone else to believe. Someone else to fear her. Because when they start watching for her, she turns her gaze away from you. I know how that sounds. I hate myself for saying it. But it's the truth. The first time I heard this tip, I refused. I thought I could beat her, stay silent, keep the knowledge to myself. I didn't want anyone else dragged into this, but the longer I waited, the worse it got. The crying moved from the woods to my roof, from my roof to inside my closet, then to just behind my head while I slept. I started coughing up water, saw handprints on my ceiling, dreamed of drowning every night. I was going to die, or worse, become one of the voices inside her, the ones that scream when she opens her mouth. So I told someone, a friend I hadn't seen in years. He thought I was drunk, laughed it off, said he'd heard the stories growing up. He stopped answering my texts a week later. I know what you're thinking, that this makes me the villain, that I'm condemning someone else to die just to save myself. And you're right. But here's the thing, so are you, because now you know. Now you've read the rules, you've imagined her shape. You've probably already heard the crying in your head, haven't you? That soft, distant wail, like it's coming from the next room. So this is your final choice. Keep these tips to yourself and take her with you everywhere until she finally drags you under, or find someone else to warn. Tell them everything. Let them believe. Maybe they'll pass it on. Maybe it'll follow them instead. Maybe you'll get to sleep through the night again. But just know this, she doesn't forget the ones who break the chain. You've got time. Not much, but enough. Enough to find someone else. Enough to pass the wait. Just remember, if no one else believes you, she'll come back, and next time she won't be crying. So now you know the truth. La Llorona is not just a story your grandmother whispered to keep you out of the river. She's not just a cautionary tale for children who misbehave. She's real, older than memory, hungrier than death. And once she notices you, once she cries for you, there is no going back to the life you had before. You'll hear her in the pipes. You'll see her face in puddles that weren't there an hour ago. You'll wake up to find your sheets soaked in river water and no open windows to explain it. And you'll feel her grief start to curl around your thoughts, because it's not just fear she feeds on, it's sorrow. She wears it like perfume, and the more of it you carry, the stronger she becomes. You'll find yourself remembering people who died a long time ago. You'll cry and not know why. You'll stop sleeping, stop laughing, stop answering the phone, until the only thing you can hear anymore is her. The sobbing, that wet, broken sound in the distance, growing closer each night, waiting for you to make a mistake, to look too long, to speak her name, to listen instead of run. And if you do, if you give in, even once, she will wrap her arms around you and pull you down into the dark. Not because she hates you, but because grief loves company. So remember the rules, write them down, etch them into your mind like salt around your door frame, and never let the crying fool you. She's not sad, she's starving. And if you're hearing her now, if you think that sound outside might be the wind or the pipes or some poor soul weeping in the dark, look away, shut your eyes, don't move, don't speak, don't even breathe too loudly, because she's not far, she's never far. And now that you know the truth, she'll want to see your face before the end.